This is why people vote for Trump. They say in politics, liberals are the gas pedal and conservatives are the brakes. And I'm generally with the gas pedal, but not if we're driving off a cliff. On the trans issue, America is no ands, ifs, or buts about it, absolutely alone in the world now, an outlier country. Last month, England's National Health Service announced that there's not enough evidence to support the safety or clinical effectiveness of puberty blockers for third graders.
For years, the woke left has held up Canada as a glittering utopia, a liberal snow globe that America is supposedly meant to copy. But not everyone buys into that frosty fantasy, and Bill Maher is one of them. On a sharp episode of Real Time, the comedian took a flamethrower to the maple syrup myth in a no-holds-barred monologue. Buckle up, this one stings.
It was where every woke white college kid wearing pajama pants outdoors who'd had it up to here with America's racist patriarchy dreamt of living someday. I mean, besides Gaza. There's only one problem with thinking everything's better in Canada. It's not. Not anymore, anyway. Last year, Canada added 1.3 million people, which is a lot in 1 year, the equivalent of the U.S. adding 11 million migrants in 1 year. And now they're experiencing a housing crisis even worse than ours. And we're sleeping in tents.
Right off the bat, Maher tears into the woke left's sugar-spun fantasies about Canada. First on the chopping block is the country's housing disaster. Fueled by wide-open immigration policies the American left salivates over as if they're a golden ticket, the reality? Canada is staring down a staggering 3.5 million unit housing deficit by 2030, a shortfall so severe it makes California look like a real estate paradise. On top of that, more than 1 in 5 households is already bleeding over 30% of its income. Just to keep a roof overhead? Yet the woke crowd continues to wave Canada around as the promised land. Maher doesn't just laugh at the fantasy, he torches it.
The median price of a home here is $346,000. In Canada, converted to US dollars, it's $487,000. If Barbie moved to Winnipeg, she wouldn't be able to afford her dream house, and Ken would be working at Tim Hortons.
Housing in Canada is brutally expensive, and the numbers alone are enough to make anyone's jaw drop. The average Canadian home now sits between $500,000 and $540,000. In cities like Vancouver and Toronto, prices skyrocket past $750,000 and easily cross the $1 million mark without blinking. Compare that to the United States, where the typical home hovers closer to $350,000, $400,000, and suddenly Canada doesn't look so dreamy anymore. The woke left loves to chant about adopting Canada's grand blueprint. But let's be real, most of them already struggle to live comfortably in America as it is. Now imagine slapping Canadian-level housing prices on top of that. We wouldn't be building a utopia. We'd be building an eviction notice for half the country. Maher's point is sharp and simple. Copy Canada. And you don't get affordable living, you get priced out of your own front door.
Because of mortgage debt, Canada has the highest debt-to-GDP ratio of any G7 nation. I don't know what that means, but it sounds bad. So does their vaunted healthcare system, which ranks dead last among high-income countries in access to primary healthcare and ability to see a doctor in a day or two. And it's not for lack of spending. Of the 30 countries with universal coverage, Canada spends over 13% of its economy on it, which is a lot of money for free health care.
Canada's problems appear far bigger than its liberal cheerleaders ever imagined, and the cracks in their so-called utopia are showing faster than they'd like to admit. Mind you, Bill Maher isn't some raging conservative torchbearer. He's a liberal himself, someone the left once proudly claimed as one of their own. That's what makes his criticism sting even more. If a guy like Maher is calling out Canada, then maybe the fantasy isn't just cracked, it's shattered. But here's the real kicker. Maher isn't ranting for the sake of it. He's drawing a comparison, holding up a mirror to America with a sarcastic grin. He's essentially asking, do you seriously want this blueprint here? Because if Canada is the model, then America had better be ready for sky-high housing costs. broken promises and plenty of regret, and trust me, he's not done yet. We're just getting warmed up.
I'm not saying Canada still isn't a great country. It is, but those aren't paradise numbers. If Canada was an apartment, the lead feature might be America adjacent. And if America was a rental car, Canada would be America or similar. And again, honestly, Canada, I'm not saying any of this because I enjoy it. I don't, because I've always enjoyed you. But I need to cite you as a cautionary tale to help my country. And the moral of that tale is, yes, you can move too far left. And when you do, you wind up pushing the people in the middle to the right.
Is that a confession from Bill Maher? Has he suddenly crossed over to the right? Not exactly. But this is the natural consequence of wandering too far into leftist la-la land. When the left becomes so unhinged that even lifelong liberals can't stomach it anymore, the pendulum starts to swing back. Some liberals don't switch sides out of love for conservatism. They simply wake up to the insanity around them. Just look at Joe Rogan, once hailed as the cool, countercultural voice of progressive thought. He's now slammed as right-wing for daring to question woke dogma. Or take Elon Musk, the guy who built electric cars and rockets. Hardly a conservative resume. Yet thanks to the left's madness, he too gets branded as center-right. Maher is following the same pattern. He hasn't changed who he is. The left has simply sprinted so far off the cliff that anyone standing still now looks conservative by comparison.
Worst, Canada is what American voters think happens when there's no one putting a check on extreme wokeness. Like the saga of Canadian shop teacher Kayla Lemieux, whose pronouns are she, her, and those. Kayla is now back to being a guy named Kerry, but 2 years ago, when they showed up to teach children, the progressive high school they taught at said that they, the school, not the person. Really, you couldn't have found another word. We were using that one. Anyway, okay. They were committed to a safe environment for gender expression. Safe for who? What about the children?
Frankly, this is exactly what happens when society collectively decides that everyone gets to dictate their own pronouns and the rest of us are forced to play along. The result is utter chaos and confusion. Take the students who couldn't even figure out the gender of their own teacher. One day, he shows up in a dress, demands to be treated as a woman, and insists everyone affirm the performance. The very next day, he reverts to being a man his biological sex at birth, as though the first act never happened. The students are left scratching their heads, wondering who exactly is standing in front of them. This isn't education. It's theater, and not the empowering kind. It's the kind that leaves kids more confused than enlightened. When identity changes with the wind, clarity disappears. What's left is a mess of contradictions nobody can untangle. All these examples of extreme wokeness aren't happening in some far-off experimental lab. They're unfolding right next door in Canada, the country American liberals are practically begging to emulate. This is their golden model, their shining North Star of progressive perfection. Yet, when you peel back the maple syrup coating, what do you actually find? Sky-high housing prices that crush families, chaotic identity politics, confusing classrooms, and government policies that look more like social experiments than real solutions. Still, the American left gazes across the border like starstruck teenagers, convinced Canada is living in some enlightened paradise. It's almost comical because if this is what utopia looks like, then it's built on debt, dysfunction, and delusion. Bill Maher's point couldn't be clearer. Before liberals demand we copy Canada, maybe they should take a harder look at reality. Spoiler alert, it's not the fantasy they've been selling.
This is why people vote for Trump. They say in politics, liberals are the gas pedal and conservatives are the brakes. And I'm generally with the gas pedal, but not if we're driving off a cliff. On the trans issue, America is no ands, ifs, or buts about it, absolutely alone in the world now, an outlier country. Last month, England's National Health Service announced that there's not enough evidence to support the safety or clinical effectiveness of puberty blockers for third graders.
Maher's absolutely right. Trump didn't win out of thin air. He won because countless Americans, especially centrists and even disillusioned liberals, were sick and tired of the endless wokeness pouring out of the left. The Democratic National Committee had transformed itself into a circus of identity politics, cancel culture and virtue signaling, and people simply wanted out. It wasn't just conservatives rolling their eyes. Moderates and independents were bailing too. Even the younger crowd, the very demographic Democrats assumed they had locked down forever, wasn't buying the nonsense. They weren't exactly thrilled by the idea of trading freedom of thought for rigid, ideological policing. The DNC became less of a political party and more of a lecture hall. And Americans don't vote for lectures. They vote for leadership. When the left failed to deliver it, they practically gift-wrapped the White House for Donald Trump.
With all the other good place countries in direct opposition to America's choice to affirm children's wishes on switching gender, no matter the age or psychiatric history. The far left, which always like to use, well, Europe does it. Yeah, no, that doesn't work on this one anymore.
Here's the irony the woke crowd never wants to admit. Some of the very countries they love to hold up as better models for America don't even buy into gender-affirming care for children. In fact, many of them outright reject it. Nations like Sweden, Finland, and the UK, often praised as progressive darlings by the left, have rolled back or restricted medical transitioning for minors, citing long-term risks and a lack of solid evidence. Some have even banned it entirely. Until individuals reach legal adulthood, these governments examined the science, weighed the consequences, and decided that protecting children mattered more than appeasing activists. Yet here in America, the left pushes this agenda as if it represents the pinnacle of progress, pretending the rest of the world is marching in lockstep. Spoiler alert, they aren't. Even the so-called enlightened countries know better than to gamble with children's futures in the name of ideology.
On immigration, Sweden opened its borders to over 1.5 million immigrants since 2010, and now 20% of its citizens are foreign-born, and its education system is tanking.
True, throwing open our borders to anyone who feels like walking in isn't just naive, it's a recipe for disaster. And we're living proof. Research shows that fentanyl smuggling and usage have skyrocketed in the past few years under Biden's watch, flooding communities with one of the deadliest drugs on the planet. We're not talking about minor inconveniences here. We're talking about an epidemic that's tearing families apart, devastating neighborhoods, and stealing an entire generation. The numbers are staggering. But the real tragedy lies in the countless lives lost, ordinary Americans who once enjoyed peace, stability, and safety, now paying the price for reckless border policies. The left frames it as compassion, but what kind of compassion leaves kids overdosing in school bathrooms or families burying loved ones before their time? Maher's point is clear. If America can't control its borders, it can't protect its people. And without protection, there is no peace, just chaos dressed up as policy. At the end of the day, Maher's takedown of Canada and the radical left isn't just comedy, it's truth. From the housing crisis to gender confusion, border chaos, and fentanyl devastation, the so-called utopia crumbles fast. America doesn't need Canada's blueprint. It needs sanity, leadership, and reality. And on this note, we draw the curtains on today's video. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button and subscribe to Pixel Fork for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.